Welcome to the Soul Seeker podcast. I'm your host, Sam Kabert. I started this pod back in 2019 when I was taking my first steps on the path of remembering. And at the time, the tagline for the show was a journey of self-discovery. A year later, it became a journey of remembering. Yet, what I know now is back then, I was still seeking. And what I've come to know now is that it's the journey of seeking that brings us the silent, slow stillness of acceptance. And therein lies our own innate wisdom. It's my mission now to eradicate the glorification of hustle culture, as it was my drive in entrepreneurship that led to a greater whole, and that's because I was outsourcing my sovereignty rather than looking within. So let this be your invitation to take a deep breath in and remember that at any time we can shift our thoughts and our feelings to create the outer world in which we wish to live. Soul Seekers, it's time to grow. Let's go. What is up, and welcome back to another episode of the Soul Seeker podcast. I am your host, as always, Sam Kabert, and in this episode, we are going deep on entheogens and plant, earth, medicine, psychedelics, whatever you want to call it. Just label it, guys, right? That's all it is. But what we're talking about is one woman's journey from being a first responder, specifically a firefighter, for nearly 20 years into having her own experience with plant earth medicines, to being so inspired, not just retiring from being a firefighter, but starting a nonprofit with her husband called the S.I.R.E.N project. And what the S.I.R.E.N project does, S.I.R.E.N is an acronym, by the way, but what the S.I.R.E.N project does is they help first responders to heal specifically through entheogens. And my guest in this episode is Angela Graham-Houweling. She is one of the co-founders along with her husband. And in this episode, I'm really speaking with Angela a lot about her journey, how she came to be someone who was more in a lens of religion and science-based, and being a firefighter as well, you know, just seeing the world a certain way, not being open to, as what she calls it, granola or hippy dippy type stuff. And what led her to actually say yes to journey with entheogens, how that awakening and integration has looked for her, and unpacking what it is that the S.I.R.E.N project actually does. Because the S.I.R.E.N project isn't just giving people these peak experiences. They're focused on preparation and integration. And if you're new to me, you might not know that I'm actually a psychedelic integration guide. That is one of the things I am so passionate about. I've been a part of over 1,000 medicine ceremonies at this point over the past 5-6 years or so. And one of the things that I've become so passionate about, even more than the medicine ceremony itself, is preparation and integration, because that often gets overlooked. So I'm super stoked that Angela has that same outlook and just prioritizes prep and integration so much. So you guys are going to love this episode. If you're new to me, or if you have not signed up and joined our free, yes, I said free, Breath Club community, I highly encourage you to go to the show notes and join the Breath Club. In the Breath Club, you will receive a weekly breathwork session via Zoom, along with an online community. And for anyone that is resonating, if you are resonating with what we are talking about on this episode, absolutely join the Breath Club. Next up, we have my Breath School. The Breath School is an online course where I'm teaching you nervous system regulation, along with a workbook to help log and track different things along with the content, because there's different learning styles. But in addition to the education in Breath School, we also have 3 breathwork sessions a week. All of that is just $50 a month. And if you are a veteran or a first responder and you would like to join breath school, please reach out to me and I would be happy to have you in at no cost at all. I started a nonprofit last year called Soul Life Balance, and the nonprofit's aim is that our marquee program, our signature program called Healing Heroes, where we provide 1-day intensive workshops to help first responders move through PTSD through breathwork journeys and MER, mental emotional release. And so if you want to learn more about Healing Heroes or connect with me and bring this to your community, if you are a veteran or first responder, reach out to me and let me know that you want game plan and something, because it is completely free of charge. So that's what I got for y'all that are first responders. And for anyone listening that's just curious and just, or you're a subscriber of the show, you're a returning guest, returning listener, I should say, thank you for being here. I think this is really, you're going to get so much out of this and learn more about the heroes that are, I mean, it's so cliche to say, but the unsung heroes. This is the truth of why I started a nonprofit for first responders. You know, I am a survivor of suicide, and I still remember, even though it was nearly 17 years ago, give or take at this point, I still remember the first responders that came there. I have friends who are first responders, and I've just noticed how much support that isn't given to these people that I feel a connection with. So thank you for being here. I appreciate your time. You're going to love this show. My guest again is Angela Graham-Houweling. She is the founder of the S.I.R.E.N project. And with that, enjoy this episode. All right, here we are again with another episode of the Soul Seeker podcast. I am your host, as always, Sam Kabert, and in this episode, we're sitting down with Angela Graham, the founder of the S.I.R.E.N project, a nearly 20-year firefighter veteran, and I am so stoked for you guys to hear her story, what she's up to. But Angela, for yourself, for me, and for everyone listening, we're going to drop in with just 3 simple breaths. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're driving or you're doing something where you can't close your eyes, you can breathe with us. Just keep the eyes open. But if you are in a place to close down your eyes, Angela, for yourself, for me, we'll just go ahead and find that comfortable seat, shutting down the eyes, sitting straight up, and through the nose, inhaling all the way up, sipping in a bit more air at the top, and sighing it out. Another deep breath in all the way up. Sipping in a bit more air at the top. And sighing it out. One last one, deepest breath yet. Inhaling all the way up as you let the belly expand and sipping in a bit more air at the top. Holding here, just rolling up the eyes, releasing tension. And sighing it out. All right. And here we are, ready to dive in. I always find a couple of breaths helps to get us into resonance. And for a lot of people listening, they're going to be like, that's the first time I took intentional breaths all day, right? So anyways, Angela, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, let's just dive straight into it. So Division I softball player, you're a pitcher, right?
Yes.
And then what school was that?
Texas, UTSA, San Antonio.
I think I've been in San Antonio once. I just got back from Austin. I go to Dallas in a few weeks. Texas has been calling me recently. But all right. So are you from Texas then?
No, I'm from California, but Texas likes to come to California for pitchers and catchers. So that's how I got my ride, and that's why I ended up out there. And it's Division I. It was the only school at the time, I think, in Texas without a football team, but they have one now.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I know. That is wild, right? So then you came back to California, Santa Clara County. You know, that's where I grew up, Santa Clara County in Gilroy. And I was on the board of the Santa Clara Chamber of Commerce back in days. So I know Santa Clara really well. And we probably were out there together working in Silicon Valley in different arenas, if you will. But you did about nearly 20 years as a firefighter, and you just retired last year. Is that right?
I was officially retired out last year. So I went to college, played a year pro in Italy,
Wow.
Came back, worked on an ambulance for a little bit, and then got hired at Santa Clara County. And I was there for almost 20 years, officially off the books last May 12, I want to say.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about what you're up to now with the S.I.R.E.N project.
Well, after navigating my own journey and issues with the workman's comp system, and luckily we knew people who connected us, me and my husband, with my medicine provider, and seeing how profound these medicines were, we just realized it shouldn't be this hard to access and it shouldn't be this difficult to afford because it's also very costly. So we decided to start this nonprofit, and that's kind of what I've been doing since.
And when you say medicines, just to be like crystal clear with everyone listening, we're talking about 5-MeO, psilocybin mushrooms, ayahuasca, San Pedro, right? Are those the main ones?
Yes, the psychedelics, that has a bad connotation from the 60s. We're trying to get away from that. And like, we don't say PTSD. We're trying not to say PTSD anymore. It's PTSI. It's an injury. It's not a disorder. It's a
Mhm.
very different verbiage when it comes to workman's comp and just your mentality around it. So instead of psychedelics, we like to say entheogenics, because if you say plant medicines, that's not including the toad. And we just want to make sure that everyone understands that these are medicines and don't connect it with the hippie 60s.
Right. Yeah. The third wave that we got going on, so much more intentional. And I mean, I got into this world for healing, if you will, back in 2019. And I think one of the things that I saw in 2020 with the lockdowns was not only was there starting to be more education around this with like Michael Pollan's book, How to Change Your Mind, and later turn into a documentary, which, you and I talk about like making things accessible. You just mentioned that that's like totally accessible to people, like his work, as opposed to a show which you've probably seen or heard of, Psychedelica, very different type of languaging and verbiage. For you, what did your journey, just even saying yes to medicine work or entheogens, like how did that journey unfold for you?
Well, like I said, I spent a few years navigating the workman's comp system and trying to find the help that I needed. I've tried everything from CPT, CBT, EMDR, talk therapy, group therapy, and SSRIs. And luckily, through the dog handling community, my husband, who's a professional dog trainer, he knows some of the Navy, like SEAL Team 6 operators. And we were able to find resources through them because the veteran community has been much better about helping their veterans cope with TBIs and PTS symptoms. So we were able to network through that. So yeah, I got to the point where I've never done drugs in my life, drugs, any kind. And I found myself um, flying down to San Diego to meet up with a group of people I've never met, to get in a van and cross the border into Rosarito to do drugs because that's just where I was. I had gotten so bad. I had so many angry outbursts. I was so far gone at certain points that it was scary. Um, and I had, it wasn't sustainable. I had to do something. So I was willing to do anything to be a better mom. Really, that was my main motivation, was my son deserved better. And I was not better. So I went there, and I have to say, I unfortunately went down there with expectations. I probably didn't have the best preparation because I got into the retreat that I went into sort of last minute. So I didn't prepare as well as I should have. So I was expecting to like see my great great grandfather or grandmother and come and give me all this wisdom and just heal me and feel better. And it wasn't like that at all. It was pretty mellow, nothing eye opening. 5-MeO DMT kicked my butt. I can honestly tell you, I'm pretty sure I know what it feels like to die. It was rough. And I remember after my journey, turning to Andrea, who's the facilitator for the retreats that we hold, and saying, this is not fun. This is hard. There's no reason for this to be illegal. No one's doing this for fun. So it really should be accessible. And working with her, that's how we were able to get the S.I.R.E.N project together and help others.
You know, you hit the nail on the head. Like it's hard work. You know, obviously my big focus these days is breath work. And I think every single breath work practitioner says this, but they call it breath work because it's work. And whether I know it's on your website, I think it was the first book on your reading list on the sirenproject.org. It's How to Do the Work with Nicole LaPera. Is that right?
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. And that's such a fantastic book. And everything that we're talking about here, you know, is shadow work. And I don't know if you've seen this, but in spiritual, conscious, mindful, plant medicine communities, whatever we want to call it, whatever label, sometimes we hear the term shadow work thrown around. And to me, I'm like, well, let's look at the definition. First, Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, coined the term the shadow, which is to make the unconscious into conscious awareness. Now, if you take that and you apply it to shadow work, it's like all of this quote unquote work is shadow work. To me, the only time that we're not doing the shadow work is when we're saying no and we're in resistance and we don't want to look at that thing. But to your point, like plant earth medicines, entheogens, it's not necessarily a fun trip. You know, I think some people just go straight to bliss. You and I talked about this previously, right? But a lot of us, like yourself, like me, and majority of the people out there, it's going to be very, very challenging. And that is the point. So I'm curious what kind of lessons you've gained in your own journey of shadow work, if you will.
Well, I can tell you it started when I was on 5-MeO, when I was under with the toad, and I learned very quickly that you can't fight it. It's kind of like when you stub your toe and your whole body tenses up to resist the pain. You kind of got to let go because the only way out is through, right? And you just got to kind of let go and let it take you and kind of see what happens. And I found that, as hippy dippy as this sounds, the most relaxed your body can be is at the bottom of your breath. Because when you breathe in, you are flexing muscles to hold that air. But if you breathe out and just for a moment at the bottom of the breath, I mean, you can breathe whenever you want, so there's no need to panic. At the bottom of your breath, if you just sit in that stillness, I think you realize what it feels like to not hold any tension at all, to have every muscle completely relaxed. And under the toad, I realized once I just sort of gave in and relaxed and exhaled and just sat in that silence and the stillness, that's when I was able to go after the shadows, if you will. I could literally see in my mind's eye little dark spots and I could focus on them and relax and they would dissipate. And I remember in my mind's eye looking down at my chest and seeing like blue steam come off my chest. And this is one of those things you're like, I swear you just had to be there because I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, I had this. No, like I'm not that person. And Andrea was like, no, there was actually steam coming off of your chest. That's why they call it getting it off your chest. And that was kind of an aha moment for me to realize you have to let go and you have to just trust. And your breath is huge as far as moving energy and allowing your body to just let go.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And I can resonate with that in terms of you know, some of the magical, mystical type of experiences that we experience and then almost start to gaslight ourselves
Mhm.
as we come out of it. Like, did that actually happen though? Or is that possible? I remember one ayahuasca ceremony where the shaman next to me, she turned into a straight peacock. And like, I never get visuals in ayahuasca, mushrooms, bufo, or anything like that. So I was like opening up my eyes and looking and being like, what? You know? And then we start to integrate things and we start to gaslight ourselves and question like what is this all about. And I know for me that's been a big learning process of this. But I'm curious, as you talk about like not being one of those people or just whatever, like you've really entered into a whole nother world from never touching a drug into starting a nonprofit helping people heal through entheogens. Like, how has your worldview changed?
I think I grew up Christian. I went to Christian school through like third grade. We used to go to church every once in a while. I think what it's helped me to realize is we're all connected. It doesn't matter what language you speak or what version of God you believe in. Pretty much all religions see God as love. God is love. Love is the all empowering connector, right? Um, I've learned to see things, believe it or not, on a more, while it's a spiritual experience, I've actually been able to see things on a more scientific level because that's just how my brain
Hmm.
works. I needed the mechanics behind it. And when you look at everything in the world, what's everything made out of? Well, atoms, which are just, it's just energy. Positive, you have neutrons, protons, and electrons. Everything's made out of energy, and we are all connected, as hippy dippy as that sounds. And I think that's where I was after my journey. Is I never had a profound anything other than knowing what it feels like to die. I'm pretty sure it was what they called ego death. But I think I've just learned to kind of step back and see the simplicity of things more. Like everything is energy, and even if it's not okay, ultimately it's gonna be okay.
Hmm.
To hold less to certainties that I had once valued before. And kind of, it's hard to put into words. It's one of those things like it's hard to put into words. I just kind of step back and feel like I see things differently. I see things on a more molecular level, on a more connected molecular level. And it helps me to not focus in on the negative and to not dwell on things and to let them go.
Mm. Yeah, that's so huge, all of that. And I'm glad you brought in like the atoms and the energy and all that, because that's a really good way for people to grasp it and understand it from a more scientific point of view. What other sorts of science do you like to bring in with people that, especially first responders and firefighters specifically, that may be on the fence of being like, I don't know about this. Like, what are the type of talking points that you have for them?
Well, historically, fire and police are rich in Catholicism. You know, that's it's a heavy religious background for the history of the occupation, if you would.
Hmm.
So it's very, especially if you go back east in New York, or the bigger departments, older departments, there's a heavy Catholicism to the occupation, which is interesting. So you get a lot of people that are afraid that it's, sacrilegious and you're worshiping something other than God and all that. So for them, it is very important to connect on a different level, the scientific level, the atomic level, the energy level, the opening their mind to God is love. And that's what you learned growing up. It says that in the Bible. And these cultures in the Americas weren't exposed to our version of God until about 500 years ago, but yet they still associate their great creator as love. So it's kind of the same. So you have to make these common sense correlations that, God didn't just show up to, this few people. Like maybe he found a way to show himself to everybody so that everyone could feel love and guidance and peace when their, day comes to pass on to the next world. And you have to try to draw those lines in gently. But the biggest one for me is the science of how it works in the brain. And they have proven when they do MRIs that entheogenics, specifically the study I saw was, I think, for MDMA and psilocybin, it lights up different parts of the brain. So what you're doing is you're encouraging what's called neuroplasticity. You're encouraging your brain to grow more neurons. And why is that important? The example I like to use is you need to treat your brain like a muscle, right? You have nerves in your muscle that cause them to function. Your brain is one giant muscle of nerves that has muscle memory to it, just like your body. And I really love to refer people to Michael Pollan's book because it explains the default mode network and how it works. But when I'm explaining it to them, I just simplify that you have your prefrontal cortex where logic lies and your lizard brain in the back, which is survival, right? There is a quick highway between the two where they communicate, where you see a shadow and logic says you're good. And when you have PTSD, the lizard brain sees a shadow and it doesn't quite make it to the logic, and you actually start to get scared and feel fear. So that's the miswiring. And when you do psychedelics, it's like if you have a snow globe, if you have tracks in the snow that you walk all the time, the same path. Well, the psychedelics sort of shake up the snow globe and give you a fresh sheet of snow, if you will, to make new paths. And that's where the work comes in. That's why pre-work and integration is so huge. These medicines don't heal you. They aren't going to just rewire your brain for you. They are going to give you wet clay and you have to be able to mold it. They're going to open a door, but you have to be able to do the work to walk through it and to get what you need out of it and to maintain it, because it's work to maintain it. Going back to the muscle memory thing, you don't eat healthy and work out to get healthy, achieve health, and stop. You keep doing it. You have to keep maintaining health. You have to keep eating healthy. You have to keep working out. It's the same thing with your mind. If you do this huge workout for your brain to grow all this muscle, healthy muscle in your brain, you have to work to maintain it, and you can lose it if you don't keep it up. But you walk from point A to point B and you don't even think about it. It's just automatic. You do the same thing in your brain every day. You have 80,000 thoughts a day, and statistically 83% are negative. Do you think that might have an effect on your mood and how you see the world? These are scientific statistics. Don't ask me how they know this, but it's a matter of being aware and conscious of your body and the tension you're holding. Is your jaw clenched? Are your shoulders in your ears? Are you clenching your fists? Because how many of us are unaware that we're doing this until it starts to hurt? Then pay attention to it. And all of the practices, meditation and breath work and the medicines, help you to be more aware of your body and the tension you're holding and the shortness of your breath, so that you can relax and resettle yourself. Because if you have anxiety and depression and you are spiraling out of control, you may not notice it till you're at a 6 or a 7. By then, you're too far gone. You need to be able to ground yourself, do some square breaths, do something to recenter yourself when you're at a 1 or a 2. Because any emotion you have only lasts for about 90 seconds. If it's perpetuated longer than that, it is that inner dialogue, that muscle memory of negative thinking that's perpetuating the negativity and causing you to become anxious or depressed. The best antidepressant in the world is gratitude. If you feel yourself, you have to be aware of the thoughts though. To feel yourself spiral, to go stop and go, in this moment, I am okay. And I am grateful for the roof over my head. Anything. I mean, every single night in our house, we do 3 things we're grateful for every single night. Because if you can't find something to be grateful for, you have a problem, because everyone has 3 things to be grateful for. And that's the main point is, right? Like, you have this miswiring in your brain. You have poor muscle memory. If you had a bad golf swing, you would over exaggerate whatever you needed to correct. And you'd be very manual and very deliberate with that golf swing to get it right. And it's the same thing with your mind. You have to be very deliberate and over exaggerating positivity and catching yourself when you're judging others or thinking something negative, and immediately think something positive. It's rewiring the brain. Nope, we're not going there. We're going to stay right over here. And it's also remembering it's okay to be sad or angry when it's appropriate. Your dog just died. That's okay to be sad. I think we might have drifted into a place in society where anytime someone is sad or upset, they think they have a disorder and they need help. And that's not necessarily true. It's okay to feel negative feelings. Just keep them in perspective and keep that gratitude in the back of your mind.
Have you ever felt overwhelmed by emotions and unsure how to move through them? Sam created the Breath Club to help you find calm and clarity. In this free online community, Sam teaches how to regulate your nervous system through breath work and process emotions effectively. Did you know that most emotions only last 90 seconds when you fully allow yourself to feel them? This is called the 90-second rule, and it's a powerful tool backed by science for emotional healing. Each week, Sam hosts live calls to guide breathwork practices and create real connection. You'll also get access to an online course and pre-recorded breathwork videos. The link to join is in the show notes.
So much goodness in that. Let's start to unpack all of it. What's that?
I'm sorry, I just rambled.
No, please, I loved it. I loved it. It's looking into a mirror. I love how you brought up the 90-second rule. You know, I've become so passionate about teaching the 90-second rule, which is that our body has a 90-second physiological response when we experience an emotion. And for the people that are thinking that, oh, this sounds hippy dippy or granola, and when someone says, in terms of when someone says emotions are energy in motion, that can sound very like hippy dippy, like, oh, that's clever, that's creative, you know. But when you have the science behind it being like, no, these emotions are energy that are designed to be in motion. They're designed to move through us in as little as 90 seconds, but we get stuck in these thought loops. I actually had Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor on my podcast, who was uh, named to Time's 100 most influential people in 2008. In her TED Talk, she introduced the 90-second rule. And I asked her, I said, hey, one of the questions I get most common is like, if we can process our emotions in 90 seconds, like, how come I'm still stuck? And she said exactly what I thought. You know, it's, well, you are not letting that energy move through you. You're stuck. Your brain has a response. Then the body has the signal from the brain. Then you're stuck in this loop over and over again. So I honestly, Angela, like, thank you for talking about the 90-second rule, because I'm a certified yoga instructor, breathwork practitioner, multiple trainings, NLP master practitioner, Reiki, all of these things, and so many different spiritual circles and masterminds and programs. The only time I ever came across the 90-second rule was from Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor's work. And for me, that's almost one of the most foundational things of what I teach, because when we really let that land, and to your point of not being entrenched in toxic positivity, of never thinking a negative thought, you know, we need to feel these things. I love what you brought up. And Dr. Joe calls it the change game. When you mention, what did you say specifically? Like, if a thought comes up and then you turn it into positivity.
Just redirect. I don't know if I gave it a label, but you just got to redirect it when you find yourself going, oh, I can't do that, or she shouldn't be wearing that. Just the judgmental things that we think about. Stop and go, I am grateful for my health, you know, or just it's correcting the neural pathway, right? It wants to start going here, and you got to go, nope, we're not doing that. We are going to make these new ruts in the snow.
Yeah. And that's exactly what Dr. Joe Dispenza calls the change game. Anytime that comes up, I have clients that prefer the word cancel. They say some other words. You can change the name, but what Dr. Joe specifically teaches is when you notice that, change, to your point, Angela, to redirect that thought pattern and to rewire and refire in a new way that is of your highest and best good. Are you familiar with my breath process? I might have sent you the book with the breath process.
Yeah. That's still long enough to read any books.
Yeah. No, for sure. So I spoke at PSA last year, Public Safety Peer something.
Okay.
I forget what, Wellness on the Front Line, PSPSA. They are a nonprofit in the first responder space offering peer support. And I gave a keynote on the breath process, which is basically what you can do in those 90 seconds. Because to your point, you mentioned like box breathing or this or that. How the breath process works is in those 90 seconds, first breathe to slow down. Celebrate that you just built moment to moment awareness. Now you can respond versus react. R, relax to feel. Just by simply saying relax in your mind, it sends a signal to your nervous system. E, energy to reveal. This is the beginning of the shadow work. If emotions are energy in motion, what's it revealing to me? A, accept to surrender, because most of the time when something's being revealed, we don't want to see it, right? So we got to accept it, to surrender to it. Then transform into an empowering belief. H, habits to integrate. As a result of what came up, what new habits, actions, or behaviors can I take? And honestly, like, once you get that down, you can just think of it as 3 simple steps. 90-second rule, and you breathe, you feel, and then you think intentionally. It's honestly that simple. So I love that you brought that up.
Well, as first responders, we are akin to acronyms, so hopefully we'll be able to take that in.
Yeah, acronyms, especially the longer ones, it's hard to remember. But that one, I'm just like, breathe, feel, think intentionally. Keep it simple. Breathe, feel, think intentionally.
We don't always keep it simple. Sorry, you thought you were done. Go ahead.
No, I'm done. Yeah.
Oh, no, we don't always keep it simple. Like you mentioned, you heard me on Grab Lives. For those listening who are not first responders, Grab Lives is an acronym, the entire word. It is so long. It's something you're supposed to remember when you're stuck in a house on fire and under stress. And that's like, do the math. That's a lot of letters and they don't always make sense. I'm like, even when I was learning, I'm like, an emergency, I'm not going to remember this. Nope.
Wait, you know it now though, right?
No, okay. I seriously forgot it. I think I learned it like for the class. And I know that like I know that I'm supposed to radio in. I'm supposed to check my air, tell them how much air I have left, slow your breathing down, turn my lights on, turn my pass on. Like I know what I'm supposed to do, just common sense wise, make myself loud and bright so people can find me and don't move. But when you think grab lives, you think that the L is light. No, I after the L is illuminate to turn your light on. Things like that. No, I have to go back to look it all up. Do you know what all of them are for?
I didn't know Grab Lives was an acronym, so I'm just learning this right now because I am not a firefighter.
Right. No, it's an acronym. That's
Yeah.
where I'm assuming that's where he got it, which makes for a great podcast show for sure, because there's the relation there. It's very creative. I love it. I cannot remember all the letters for Grab Lives, and that's what you're supposed to remember under pressure. And that's a little tangent because that's what I do.
No, I love it. Yeah, it's a fluid conversation. All this is just reminding me that I recently caught up with a buddy who I haven't seen probably a year or something. And he's entrepreneur. He's probably in his 40s, has had a construction style business for a while. He got into plant medicine work and spirituality and different ceremonies, doing men's work now. And I was talking with him and he said he's becoming a firefighter. And I was like, oh, wow, that's so interesting, because I started my nonprofit Soul Life Balance to serve first responders with help moving through PTSD through breath work, MER, and other modalities. And I was like, I'm seeing a lot of first responders that are moving out of that. It's interesting to see that you were working with medicines from being an entrepreneur, moving into becoming a firefighter, you know?
It's a weird time. People used to get out of high school and they would become firefighters and they didn't have side jobs because they didn't make enough. But then my husband, for example, he was a CPA and then became an investment banker in Wall Street, decided it was too stressful, and then went and became a firefighter. I'm like, that feels so backwards to me.
And then dog training.
Yeah, well, he actually got into the dog training before he got hired in the fire service. That's what drew him to it, because he's like, well, if I can have my dog at work, then that's so he does. We have 4 dogs, 2 that find you if you're alive and 2 that find you if you're not.
Oh, wow. Nice. I love that. So your husband's had quite a few different careers then: CPA, Wall Street, dog training, firefighter. Wow.
Yeah, he's a jack of all trades. He just finished getting his master's in history from Harvard.
Wow.
Yeah, we're going to his graduation in May. Super proud of him. He's just one of those people who's like, I think I'm going to go do this today. And he just does it.
Yeah. And you guys founded the S.I.R.E.N project together, right?
Absolutely. I would say that was more 80% him. I was the guinea pig that went and did the medicine and discovered it. And I'm the one that's gone and trialed different medicines with different practitioners for the most part. And he's started nonprofits. He had a nonprofit before training dogs for autistic kids. So he raised and trained dogs for autistic kids. So he's the business-minded one who is fearless when it comes to let's just start a nonprofit. He's also one that has financed this endeavor, in the sense that he's on a special privately owned kind of FEMA team, the owner of which was doing matching donations for a while. And so he just worked a ton of overtime and donated to our own nonprofit.
Oh, wow.
Matching donations to get us off the ground and moving, which is how we've gotten where we are today, which after this next retreat, we will have served over 75 first responders.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And that's pretty much all on him. We're fortunate. We have a lot of alumni that are contributing, paying it forward and helping out a lot. That helps. The $20 here and there, $2,000 here, like really, really helps. But now we have to, he's not matching donations anymore. So we need to figure out how to be a big kid grown-up nonprofit and
keep it going.
Yeah.
So what sorts of resources are out there for firefighters and first responders? Because I feel like there's got to be grants, but aside from grants, I mean, obviously grants is a lot of work in grant writing and getting them awarded and things like that, especially nowadays. But just in general, like if a first responder is looking for mental and emotional health, if they have PTSI, then does that help them get funds to work with entheogens?
No, not that I know of, not unless you're in a state where it's legal or they're doing a trial. So right now we're pushing through laws in California to do a trial with veterans and first responders. We just helped Hawaii. They got theirs through the first council yesterday, completely unamended, to do a trial for veterans and first responders. And so if you have the diagnosis, I would assume that you're going to be higher on the list of potential participants for these trials for the newer states. And Washington's pushing one through. Oregon and Colorado, it's already legal, so you could go there. But if you have a diagnosis, it will give you more access to like talk therapy, EMDR, and all the conventional therapies. You might even, not through workman's comp, but you might even find a way to get into some ketamine. Ketamine is very expensive in my experience. And you got to be careful, because the reason EMDR doesn't work for us is for first responders, a lot of us develop the coping mechanism of dissociation. So as soon as something happens, we kind of turn off, which makes EMDR useless. You have to be able to focus on the event and hold the emotion and process it. And we just shut down, which is why these medicines are so important for first responders, because someone who's gone through trauma, molestation, rape, some other horrific event, EMDR works very well for the general population. It is a great tool, so I don't want to knock it. It just doesn't seem to work well for us because we've developed that coping mechanism. But as far as the grants, I don't know of any direct grants right now other than the ones we give them to go to our retreats, unfortunately.
Oh, right. Yeah, of course, there's those. That's so fascinating about EMDR. That makes sense. The disassociation. So you can't reassociate if you were disassociated, then essentially, right?
Just turn off and go numb. And I remember going through an intensive treatment of that for like 4 or 5 days, 4 or 5 hours a day. Just over and over. I remember asking the therapist to leave the room because I was having such a hard time holding on to the emotion. Like I was just numb, like mentally and emotionally exhausted, where I was like, I feel nothing. Like I felt nothing. And that was very frustrating, especially when I was told that she was not responsible for my healing. I was responsible for my healing. Like she was making it my fault.
Oh, no.
Also, it was my fault that I wasn't doing it right. And that was a little offensive. It's not fun when you're in a bad place and the therapist is basically saying, you're not doing it right. This is your fault. It's not my job.
Yeah. I've been there. It's so interesting too, to see like the difference between traditional therapy and coaches, because obviously you can have a coach with no qualifications or certifications, or they could have qualifications and certifications, whatever the case may be, and they can be like that therapist. But a lot of times what I've been noticing is more coaches are very well adept at holding space, so it's kind of counterintuitive to what we've been grown up with and conditioned with, in terms of thinking, oh, it needs to be the traditional route of a traditional therapist. But really, like, a lot of coaches do amazing work. And with EMDR specifically, I had kind of a similar experience with you with that. And I do also know friends that have had great experiences with EMDR. I'm curious though, like in terms of preparation and integration, like what other tools and modalities, like outside of like meditation, journaling, the normal stuff, like, is there anything else that might be a modality not like EMDR, but something that you found that's great for preparation and integration for first responders?
Well, you hit the big ones: the meditation, journaling, breath work. We refer people to Wim Hof. It's a pretty intensive. It's work. It's a lot of work, and it's a free app. So we would do Wim Hof. Those are the big ones. I would add to that for mindfulness is going for a walk. It's kind of like EMDR because you're activating the left and right, back and forth, which is the similar part of processing, but you're also out in nature. If you're going for a walk, preferably out in nature, that can help to ground you and help center you. And then you're being physical and active. So you're also able to kind of work through, if you're having a bad day, and kind of get the energy out. I think what else? As far as mindfulness, honestly, eating. Your diet, I think, is mindful. When you're mindful about what you're eating, and here this food is nutritious versus just, the brownie. I do find there's a mindfulness component to really paying attention to the food that you're eating and why you're eating it. And while you're eating it, just very much focusing on it and how it's going to help your body versus just, I'm hungry and that tastes good. That's a mindfulness thing, because you really do need to be mindful of everything you consume, from food, the air, drinking, alcohol, music, news, media, multimedia, social media. that's all consumption. And I think that you can be mindful when you're aware of what you're taking in.
If you're looking for a powerful and transformative experience for your next event, consider bringing in Sam Kabert as a keynote speaker. Sam's message of soul life balance and his expertise in mental health and mindfulness resonate deeply with audiences. He not only inspires with his story, but also offers practical tools like breathwork to help attendees regulate their emotions and reconnect with themselves. You can even have Sam lead a guided breathwork journey, creating a truly unforgettable experience. To learn more or book Sam for your event, check out the link in the show notes to book a call with Sam now.
100%. The eating, emotional and binge eating has been so huge for me over the past couple of years. I haven't mastered it, but I am proud to say that I did a 7-day fast, which was probably as impactful as any medicine ceremony that I've done. It's through a company called Zen Cleanse. And what it is, it's I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I've talked about it. It cleans out not just the gut, but the intestines, and there's a mucoid plaque, they call it. Have you heard of mucoid plaque?
I have not.
I feel like I told you about this when we had our prep call, but I don't think I did, right?
I don't think you did, because I just finished my certification for integrative nutrition. So I'm an integrative nutritionist. But they talk about fasting and the science behind it. And like day 1's rough, but like day 2 and 3 aren't that bad. It's weird. Your body like adapts or something, but I haven't heard that term specifically.
I'll send it to you, and I'll put it in the show notes for anyone to check out if you want to check it out. The company is called Zen Cleanse. I did their rainbow detox, or whatever it's called, the rainbow cleanse. And the first day was cleaning out the mucoid plaque in the intestines. And what came out of me, like, honestly, a friend told me about this because she became a regenerative health practitioner. She showed me what came out of her. And I was like, well, first, she told me that she's been trying to overcome her nail biting just habit for 20 years. And she works with a lot of medicine. She's very much, granola and armpit hair and like the whole thing, and she does deep work and facilitates too. So, and she's incredible. So when she told me she did this fast and then it kicked her nail biting habit, and it had been a couple of years, I was listening. Then when she showed me what came out of her, that's when I was like, I'm doing this. So that was the mucoid plaque. And it's just taking a product. So it wasn't a complete fast because I was taking a product to flush it out. And then after that, it's pretty much just enzymes every day. And it's amazing how the enzymes help you to not feel like that empty sensation where your stomach is like eating itself,
Yeah. Well, what's really interesting that I learned, and this is going to be the new like buzzword, is microbiome.
Mm-hmm.
And the gut and the bacteria going into it. There are studies through UCSD, the courses that I just took, but they were telling us about studies where you can seed people. So if you have a good, healthy biome, they will take your fecal matter and they will seed somebody else in a pill to go through their system to get that same microbiome, because it's a weird mapping of the DNA of all the different critters in your belly. You want a really diverse, all over the place, like not related type bugs, if you will, bacteria. And they found people with C. diff, that's an infection in your intestines, and it can kill you, it can dehydrate you, have a very narrow range of genetic diversity in their microbiome. And in an experiment, they seeded these patients because it's becoming resistant to antibiotics. It's resistant to medication. So they seeded them from a healthy person, and they were cured. And the results were so profound within within a month, like everyone was doing better. They decided it was a crime against humanity to withhold the treatment. So they just went ahead and approved it. So that's standard practice now for usually elder people with C. diff. So where am I going with this? Your gut brain is actually older than your normal brain you have, right? You have more neurons in your gut than you have in your brain. And the vagus nerve that goes down, actually 90% of the neurons go from the gut to the brain. So there's a lot of communication from your gut to your brain. And they think that what you're eating not only helps you produce serotonin, dopamine, all the good feeling stuff, it also tells your brain to release it. Mm-hmm. So what you're eating And the diversity of what you're eating is making for a healthier gut biome, which is, they think, linked to diabetes, depression, autism. They're actually experimenting with autism, just the range of things that they think could be affected by your biome is amazing. So when people think, oh, I have yogurt every day, well, that's great, but you also need yogurt, and you need kimchi, and you need that green thing and that purple thing, because it's not just about getting the bacteria, it's feeding it. So if anyone tries to sell you something with prebiotics, it's a fancy word for fiber. So don't buy into that. If it tastes good, knock yourself out. You need the extra fiber, by all means. But getting different fiber from different sources every single day is feeding different bugs in your tummy that have different jobs. And so that's why it's so important to not eat the same thing every day, to try to get every color in the rainbow in every meal if possible, but at least every day, every single color if you can. And this is a really big tangent. I'm sorry, I just solely took off on.
Oh, it's great.
Speaks to mental health. This is why I got it, because a lot of our participants do the medicine. They've helped heal their trauma. They're helping rewire their brain, and they still don't feel good. Well, let me see. 20 years of lack of sleep, exposure to endocrine disruptors and carcinogens, stress of the job, all the stuff that goes on messing with your whole hormonal endocrine system. So they're doing this medicine, they're trying to get better, and yet they're still tired. They're still depressed. Their testosterone is low. And so I was trying to find another way to help that doesn't involve getting testosterone supplements or other types of medications to balance out your hormones that are so jacked up from years of messing with your sleep and your chemistry.
I love it. I'm so excited to hear that you're going down this path. It's so needed. So you're preaching the choir here. I'm so stoked to hear that you're learning about that, to not just help yourself, but everyone around you, and that comes into the S.I.R.E.N project, because like I mentioned, it's been so instrumental for me as well. And it's a practice, still learning more and not going as deep as you with it. But that's just so cool to hear. I had something else I was going to ask you, but now I just lost that train of thought. That's
my fault. I go off on tangents.
No.
I can tell you this. Here's another little tangent, this little stat I like to throw out there. When people talk about firefighter suicide, and they know that that's kind of a big deal. Well, I can tell you this. I made a graph, and I got my numbers from the Firefighter Behavioral Health Alliance, just to show you how bad it's gotten. The suicide rate for firefighters is 500% higher now than it was 20 years ago. So this is before COVID. When we talk about the mental health problem in America right now, and how the suicide rates, I don't know what the general population's suicide rate is, but I know that that's been in the media a lot. The emotional health and well-being of people in general seems to be on the average down, and in a bad way. And I think it's showing itself in the vulnerable populations of first responders and veterans. And to prove it, our suicide rate is 500% higher than it was 20 years ago. I have my thoughts for why that's happened, but the fact of the matter is it's happening. That's where we are. It is pretty standard to have these higher numbers, and that's not okay with me. It's not okay that we're dying by suicide at 3 times the rate that the job is killing us. So you're 3 times more likely to die by suicide than something happening at work as a firefighter. That is not okay. And I just wanted to hit that home real quick while I had the opportunity, because while we have these medicines and we want to help first responders, it's not just that they see bad things and they would like to feel better. They're affecting their families. The generational trauma that's being created by having a parent who is withdrawn and neglectful or angry and abusive is going to affect generations of people. So we're not just trying to help the first responder, which is why we also send spouses. We send fire, police, dispatch, EMS, and spouses, because we want to heal the whole family unit, because the spouse takes a beating as well. There's a lot of trauma involved, and I don't think that spouses get enough credit for what they're dealing with at home. And it's my fear is it's going to keep getting worse before it gets better. So we exist not just to help first responders find these therapies and to get help, but to change the laws, because ultimately we can't get to everybody in time. We don't have the resources to get to everybody in time. This needs to be a federal law, and you change federal laws by moving one state at a time. So if we can get more people to be aware and active and writing into your legislation and really pushing to make these safely accessible, which I'll hit on later, that's the only way we're going to win this war, because first responders aren't the only ones who need help. The general population does as well, and they need to find safe help. I don't think that that's in a clinic that's sterile on their own with a lab coat, but there are some medical issues. When it comes to taking the medicines, not everyone can take it. Not everyone should take it. There are medical reasons why people shouldn't take that. So I think there's a medical component for safety. But like you were saying, the coach, there's a lot of people out there that don't have any letters behind their names or any special US government certification programs behind them that are so well versed and so in tune and are great at holding space and understanding what somebody needs out of the medicine. And I would really love to see at a federal level a hybrid system of medical doctor to make sure you don't have hypertension while you're taking these meds, and then an experienced practitioner who's been trained with someone from the native practices that have used these medicines safely and successfully for thousands of years. There's a lot of knowledge there that I think our Western medicine is overlooking. Yes, that sounds granola, but I've seen it. And I think we need to start treating people holistically, not just the medical part, but the spiritual part, the mental part, because it is all connected. Ulcers are caused by stress. Cardiovascular disease is caused by stress. So we need the medical and the psychiatrist and the spiritual people to come together and create a cohesive system to help heal people. That's all I want to say.
I love that vision and that mission. I align with that so much. Being a survivor of suicide myself, I that's always been something that is very close to my heart. And hearing those statistics, thank you for bringing those into the equation, because it's truly is eye-opening and heart-opening, if you will, as well. Really helps us to zoom out. So everything that you're up to is so absolutely incredible for people that are hearing, like, how can I get involved? Because you mentioned some things like, do you have a thing on your website, or like for anyone that wants maybe just to back your mission, obviously if they want to participate in a journey and go on their own healing, that's great too. But anyone that's just feeling like that call to arms, like what's the next step or the ask there?
Well, obviously we need funding for sure. We have a really great system with great people who are, that's our system. We love Andrea. She's Chilean by birth. Her grandparents were curanderas, but she has 30 years of Western medicine training, and then found her calling to go back to Mexico, actually, and to do these medicines. And she has an authentic traditional shaman, and we do the traditional ceremonies. So we really like to bring in the setting, because the set and setting, your mindset going in and the setting are huge. So we really love that. We get a lot of people that are like, I'm trained to hold space and I want to come do it. And we love that. We kind of just defer to Andrea for that. We need funding. We need to find a way to stay alive and to stay afloat, because right now I have over 100 people on my wait list. And I'm always afraid I'm not going to get to them in time. So I do try to treat them. And there are some people that, hey, I need help right now. I'm not comfortable going to Mexico. And we do the best we can to network with them to get them help sooner. So we definitely that. We do have 2 retreats this year that are open to the public. One is in August, and it's just like the retreats that we do. It's a fundraiser retreat. So your tuition will pay for you and one other first responder. It's $4,000, which is not that bad when you consider a lot of places in America are $5,000 to $7,000, and that's just for you. That's not going to help anybody else. And that would be the psilocybin and the toad, and that covers everything except your flight. And then the other one is ayahuasca. That one's going to be in November, and we have a few openings for that still. So if someone wants to try one of these retreats with our practitioners, because again, when I was coming into this world, the hardest part is, where do you find someone you can trust?
Yeah.
Someone that's going to not give me something terrible and make sure that I'm safe and I don't try to fly off a building. It's kind of a big deal. So I would like to offer that to people, that I have someone that will take care of you and give you quality medicine that they know where it's come from. And so we have those retreats. They're on the website. You can contact me if you'd like to sign up. Or if you want to donate, there's also a spot on the website for that as well.
Amazing, 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 amazing. So just go to the show notes, guys. You can find the website there to go to the S.I.R.E.N project and all of the information for the retreats, to connect with Angela, donations. I hope you all feel inspired. I just love conversations like this that are truly from the heart and leading from the heart, because that's how we change the world. To your point, it's got the ripple effect. So any last words for me, I would say, for me, one of the biggest practices is when I can look at someone else, look at them in the eyes and truly know that they are a reflection of me. It helps me to open my heart, feel more compassion, feel the gratitude that you were talking about, those little things. And that will sound a little hippy dippy to some people, but I think after you experience and start integrating these medicines into life, that practice is just so profound, because it's a natural way to slow down, to zoom out, to open the heart and find gratitude.
Yes. Thank you so much for providing this platform to get the word out.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for being here. And I hope we can do it again soon and collaborate down the road.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Angela. Thank you for listening to the very end. I hope you enjoyed this episode just as much as I did. If you are a first responder or a veteran and you want to go deep with me, I do something called a breakthrough session. We utilize mental emotional release, and it reprograms the subconscious mind, and it has been scientifically proven to totally alleviate PTSD. If you want to go deeper on that and get a free session with me, for the first 2 people that reach out, I'd be happy to do a free complimentary session. Usually it's around $5,000 to $10,000, and it is an all-day experience. So if you're a veteran or first responder and you really feel a resonance here and you want to go deeper, reach out to me. Either way though, join the free breath club. That's a great place to start. If you're a first responder or a veteran and you want to join breath school, reach out to me and I'd be happy to extend a free membership. I hope you guys got so much out of this. I enjoyed this episode with Angela. I hope to collaborate with her in some in-person experiences real soon. And thank you so much. And I will see you on the next episode of the Soul Seeker podcast. Thank you so much for listening to the very end. I hope you dug this podcast just as much as I enjoyed it. If you got anything at all, please, if you could just do me a favor and leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to this podcast, it helps the show grow. So thank you for considering to leave a review. If you want to go deeper with Soltara or Elan, you can find the links to connect with them in the show notes. And if you want to work with me, the best way to work with me, the easiest way to work with me is the free way, and that's by joining the Breath Club. The link to the Breath Club is in the show notes. And also know that I'm available for one-on-one support, that is coaching and guidance, as well as keynotes and breathwork journeys for conferences and events. Thank you so much, and I will see you on the next episode of The Soul Seeker.